next few right now. All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's do it. Cue the music. All right, there we go. Had a little bit of dancing this time. Don't always get it. Never get it when Todd's a panelist. So glad to have some people here who like to dance. Welcome to season 5 of the Profit Power Hour, presented by Profit Coach. We are talking about disciplined, reputation-driven growth. And if you don't know what that phrase means, you will by the end of our session today. This is episode 5. We are pulling right along here this year in the Profit Power Hour, and I am looking forward to a great conversation today. My name is Brad Johnson. If we have not met, I'm the CEO of Profit Coach. We help property management entrepreneurs expand their entrepreneurial freedom of time and money by building highly profitable, self-managing companies. And with me today, well, before that, your mandatory picture of my adorable children. The weather is warming up here in Wilmington, and so we are making our Saturday morning beach trips. Here's the most recent one. David, Barrett, and Emma having a great time on the sand and in the still fairly cold water, but they don't care. Little kids are cold-blooded. They love to swim no matter what. All right, panelists, on to the important things for today. Stepan Renc from LongStreet Property Management is here. Jason Wolf, founder of Utah Property Solutions and Property Management University, and Chuck Hattemer, co-founder of propertymanagement.com and somebody who has been in the PM space for a very long time. As always, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. We will be getting to those as we go. Karen says, pretty bad feedback interfering. If anybody else is hearing that, please chime in. I'll see what I can do on my end to fix it. Want to see if that's just a Karen problem right now or if it's an everybody problem. Thank you, panelists. I just saw that you all muted your things, so thanks for that. The agenda here, and I will let our panelists introduce themselves in just a moment. But the agenda, all right, the philosophy of reputation-driven scale. Again, what do we mean by that? What does that look like? The strategy of reputation-driven lead generation. So how do you use your reputation to actually drive lead gen? I don't know about you guys, but this is a conversation that I'm having with PMs basically every time I talk. How do I get more leads? And then tactics of visibility and AI. Another question I often get, and where I will put Chuck Hattemer on the spot. Chuck, how does AI work? How do I get leads from artificial intelligence platforms? So we'll be talking about that as well. Okay, first going to put this poll up for you. As your company has grown, what has become the hardest thing to consistently maintain? I've got 4 answers for you here. I know that there could be a variety of these, but give me the one that is the most difficult to be consistent about. Is it owner comms? Is it your process consistency? Is it team accountability? Or is it culture and training? Are you struggling to scale your culture? As your team grows, culture changes. Are you able to hold on to it and keep it where you want it to be or make it better as you go? So while you guys are filling out that poll, I will let these gentlemen introduce themselves. We will start here with Stepan. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you live, what sort of business you operate. Just give everybody the overview of who you are.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, thanks, Brad, for having me over. My name is Stepan Renc. I'm the owner and CEO of LongStreet Property Management. We operate in 3 markets in Oregon. So Portland Metro, Salem Metro, and what we call Corvallis Metro areas, specializing in single family and small multifamily units up to small multifamily properties up to 50 units that are unfurnished for long term.
Okay. And how long have you been in property management?
I bought my company from my father-in-law at the beginning of 2020, so it is going to be about 6 years now.
Nice. All right. And how many units do you guys manage?
Just about to cross 1,200 units at the moment.
1,200. Okay. All right. Big company. Jason Wolf, tell us about you, Jason.
Yes.
You do a couple different things, maybe more.
Yes, absolutely. Also, thanks, Brad, for having me. I appreciate being with you guys. Jason Wolf, I am the broker and owner of an SFR PM company here in the Salt Lake Valley along the Wasatch Front. Um, Been in real estate and property management about 20 years. I peeled off property management company about 10 years ago. And about a year ago, founded Property Management University and have been focused on that, where we educate real estate property management professionals.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good deal. Yes. Salt Lake City, the global capital of property management. All the
Yes.
franchises are based there. There's 700 PM companies. Property Management University is based there. It is the center of the world for property management. And not too far from Salt Lake City is Chuck Hattemer. Chuck, tell us about Chuck.
Hello, and yeah, thank you, Brad, Stepan, Jason. Glad to be here. My name's Chuck Hattemer. So I've been in the property management industry for about 13 years. Co-founded a company called One Rent, and then later called Poplar Homes. We scaled that nationally to about 25 markets and 13,000 doors. Lived through every stage of that growth, the good parts and the embarrassing ones. And now I'm co-founder and president of propertymanagement.com, focused on helping property managers build trust and through proven performance and helping amplify the best property managers and use that for growth. So thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, awesome. I think your perspective in scaling a PM company and with what you're seeing day in and day out at propertymanagement.com will be very useful here. Common theme for all of these gentlemen, West Side. So we've got Wyoming, we've got Salt Lake City, and we've got Portland. I'm the lone East Coaster here, but don't worry. The next time we have a Profit Power Hour, I will be broadcasting live from my new home in Colorado. So I'm also moving to the West Coast, or excuse me, the western half of the country. And yes, just like Peter said, it's dry. And I'm actually doing that on purpose because I'm tired of being hot and humid all the time. All right, let's put our poll on the screen here. I'm going to share these results before we jump in. As your company has grown, what has become hardest to consistently maintain? Two of these take the cake: owner comms and process consistency. But we also have a few votes here for team accountability and culture and training. So we should be able to address some of the owner communication issues, that's for sure, today. And some process consistency is going to be relevant here as well. So let's jump in now, first with the philosophy of reputation-driven scale. And I have an opening question for you guys, which is, as your property management company scales, how do you move from the individual heroics, and we're thinking specifically here about reputation and about service and excellence. How do you move from individual heroics to a systemized culture of operational discipline and consistency? So, Stepan, I'm going to start here with you because I know that you guys have scaled up quite a bit over the last few years, and you've probably seen this firsthand. Tell me a little bit about what this has looked like and how you guys have done it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we started growing, when we reached that 250, 300 doors mark, when I was the sole property manager, I had couple people on the team. It's just starting to be big at that point, too big. Until that point, you can hold everything in your head, you know about every property, what's going on over there. But once you start getting closer to in my experience, 300 door mark, it just needs a system. So the basis of our company, or what has allowed us to scale to where we are now and where we're going, is actually EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, that defines the 6 key components. And if you if you get them right, then it allows you to systematize the business and run it consistently, and that's how we are able to to run consistently and maintain the reputation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And um, how long, I guess, like, how long did it take and what was the process like from being in that spot where you realized that 250, 300 doors? I actually have a note here. I had my own thought, which we call is just a reputation gap. Basically, where the owner experience is only as good as the specific staff member they happen to talk to on that day and get that experience. What did it take and how long did it take to get from that to a systematized owner and customer experience?
Yeah. I don't know exactly how many months it took. It was fairly quick, from reading the book Traction to actually implementing it, because at that point the company is very small and you can make changes right away. There are just a few people. So grasping the system, and defining it, I would say, within a month or two, we were running on EOS.
Okay, okay. And what was it? I'm sorry to just keep drilling in on this, but I want to get to the meat of it. What was it about EOS that changed and systematized um the
Yeah,
culture and the experience? Was it a core value system? Was it a
absolutely.
experience that you were like, this is the experience that you will get at Longstreet, and this is how you implement
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for drilling into it a little more.
it?
So the the core values are the key about that. What do we stand for? How do we want our service and our company to be perceived? That is the key component of the vision. EOS defines the people that you want to attract and how you define them, how you measure them, how you evaluate them. Uh, the data is really important because you got to have the numbers to stay on track. The data actually reveal if your process is broken somewhere, or if everything is humming and you don't need to concentrate on that. That all plays into the reputation. It gives you the way how you solve your issues, because every business has problems and issues and you got to tackle them quickly. Also feeds to reputation. So the framework, I guess the system that is the backbone that you gotta have right if you want to have good reputation, because all those six components play into that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good. That's really good. Jason, how about you? Thinking through both lenses of owning a PM company and what you see at PM University. How do you move from the heroics, the I talked to this person on this day and had this experience, to the consistent operational discipline and consistency of reputation management?
Yeah, and I'll echo a lot of what Stepan said is at about that 200 to 250 door, there was that heroic strategy where I remember giving out my personal cell phone number to clients, and it was all about delivering the service that I believed was important. And at about 200, 250 doors, that system started to break. I started to break, and we weren't delivering the quality, which then eventually translates into reputation, right? And so the part that I'll really echo is traction was incredibly important to us. And I'll be the first to admit we have not been successful implementing it all. But what it did do is it really started that thought process, and it forced us to create those core values. And the core values was really the catalyst to everything. And I had to believe in those core values myself before I even started rolling them out to our team and started adding people to the team. I had to believe in them. And it probably took, we were not as quick. It probably took us several months, because it was so important to me to feel those, to really believe in what we were going to go for. Once we identified those, then it was about putting in the training, the education, then the systems that then layer on, and those core values were the basis of all of it, and they still are today, 10 years later, and we haven't changed them.
So draw the line for me. How do your company's core values translate to the customer experience and the reputational discipline that you need to do well in property management?
Great question. I think that, you know, every decision that we make, we reflect back on those 5 core values, right? And they usually, one of them will be prominent. One of the core values will be prominent. And, I believe that your reputation, specifically your online reputation, say for Google reviews, is a lagging indicator of, I think that every review that you get is a direct reflection of those core values and how you delivered that service. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, Brad, but if
No,
not,
it does. It does. I think what I'm pushing on is every business seems to have core values.
right,
Everybody's got a list.
right.
The best example of this, I should have looked this up beforehand. Maybe somebody in the chat knows this. Enron had core values, and one of them was like honesty and just that. So how do you? Um, yeah. I don't need to keep pressing you on it, but like, how do those maybe just do what Angela asked, which is what are those core values, and what are just examples of those that people push down into the decision making framework of everything they do. And that was really the point I was trying to get out of
Sure.
you guys. What I thought, which is, well, there's one thing to have core values. There's another thing to actually do business by your core values, internally and externally.
Absolutely. And I do agree that I think a lot of core values can just be fancy buzzwords, right? And people slap them on the wall and they say, these are our core values. And then they never revisit them, they don't teach them, and they don't lead by them. And so I really think that it starts from leadership to demonstrate those core values. You know, we have several core values, and I'll just give a quick example for our property management folks here. Transparency. If transparency really is a core value, and that's an easy one to pull out of the internet, right? Transparency, everybody's transparent. But do you suppress fees on your owner statements? Right? Do you disclose, are you truly operating with transparency inside of your company? And I think that you have to do that before that translates out to your clients and your customers.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. That's good. Chuck, welcome back.
Yeah.
We've been talking EOS and talking core values. I'm curious if you have another angle or take on this. How do you move from those individual heroics to a systemized culture of operational discipline and consistency when it comes to reputation?
Yeah. So, on the core values question, I mean, I think, there's a book, I think is it The Hard Thing About Hard Things, or What You Do Is Who You Are? And so really like internalizing the way that you expect your folks at your organization to operate. What that actually looks like is not just the poster on the wall, but for example, if being resourceful and frugality is part of your system and your core values, then maybe when you go on a retreat, you're not getting the most luxurious place to stay with everyone. Like you're actually staying at a place that is budget friendly, and maybe you're not eating the fanciest food. And so like that kind of behavior, that Ben Horowitz talks about it in that book, where you have kind of like the wartime versus the wartime CEO, and being able to actually live out your core values in the way that your team operates, I think is a big part of building your reputation. And so the example that Jason gave of suppressing fees when transparency is one of your values is huge. I think about the CEO of United Airlines recently. There was a write-up in the Wall Street Journal about him, and he said, "Hey, imagine it's me on the plane flying, and all the questions I would demand to ask, I would demand answers on. Imagine every passenger is asking those questions, and that's the kind of culture we want here, is to be very forthcoming with that information. So now when you fly United, you get all of that information directly through the app. You know exactly why, a plane is delayed. What are the options for making a connection? So it's really like, yeah, I think that that's how you kind of systemize the culture of operational discipline, is like your workflows should reflect what your reputation, what your values are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Okay. Thank you. I'm just in the chat making jokes. Okay. Let's move on to our next topic here, or excuse me, our next question, which is the idea of reputation as a fixed operational constant. It's something that you must track, you must improve, you must keep your eye on, like rent or payroll. So why should we treat it like that rather than a variable that fluctuates with the season of the business? Or you could disagree with this take and say, no, it's not that. It actually is this thing that kind of ebbs and flows. It's not this fixed thing. Chuck, I think you were the person who introduced me to that language. So I'd love to hear more from you about reputation as an operational constant.
Yeah, so I guess uh, like reputation is something where it's very hard to work on your reputation when you're caught up in the busy season of property management. You think about like, the times of like right now, for example, when we're building up to the hot season for leasing, or there's another peak typically in the fall. And so it's very easy to like just get pulled into the weeds of operating your business and running it day to day. And I will say that like that's very critical because that's where your reputation is built. But I think you need to build a system for getting the word out about all that hard work that you're doing. And that really comes down to marketing. So like reputation as a fixed operational constant is basically marketing. Do you have a systematic way to communicate all the hard things that you're doing, all the hard problems that you're solving on a regular basis to your customer? You look at, folks that are like Peter Lohman, shout out to Peter Lohman in the chat, putting together a newsletter and like being very transparent about, hey, here's our operating playbook. He built a lot of initial momentum around being very open about his Notion operating system for their business. That is like taking those things that are actually building your reputation and communicating those, and doing that in a systematic, consistent way. That's sort of how I like to think about like reputation as a fixed operational constant.
So tactically, just for a moment, I know we're doing more tactical later, but tactically, what does that look like for the PM? Is that a monthly owner update? If it's something like that, what kind of things are you putting in there? And is that to everybody, or these individualized, here's how we did with your property this month?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it starts with the individual communication. It's being like, don't think that something that you've done to solve a problem for a property owner is too small to let them know. Obviously, there are some property owners who like the whole point of the relationship is they don't want to hear from you at all.
Yeah.
But there are but like there's ways to still communicate to that owner, maybe on a less frequent basis, about all the things you've done, and engage them as referral sources. Like you can let them know, hey, you get a free month of management service if you refer someone. And then there are other owners where if you've done the right work of like bucketing each of your clients into a certain ICP, you can personalize your communication style with each of those ICPs. Like literally tag the ICP in your PMS or your CRM and build your communication workflows based off of those ICPs. So for the owners that are a little bit more hands-on, maybe they're coming from being a DIY self-manager and working with a professional manager the first time. They're like, oh, I've done it my way for 20 years and that's the way I like it. You have to be way more respectful of their way of operating and kind of win them over to your way of doing business. And the way you do that is like share with them all the problems that you've solved without them having to lift a finger, and be very forthcoming with, the data on their property's performance, and help them build that confidence. So yeah, I think it just comes down to starting at the individual basis and then if you want to communicate to your broader owner group, maybe on a quarterly basis, like surface some of the big wins from your team, from your property managers. Like, what are the big problems you solved this quarter? Let's package that into a newsletter or some posts on social media or a video, and let's like elevate our team members who solve those problems and talk about them.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people get stuck thinking, okay, the point of property management is my clients never want to hear from me. And so then they apply that to like how they operate their business. And they're like, we don't need to like market and get the word out because like we're supposed to be the guy in the background. But I think, there is a right way to package that all up and share it.
Totally. I agree with you and think that like I understand the sentiment of the point is that they want to be left alone. The point is that they don't want to hear from me. I think there's something under that, which is the point of property management is to make problems go away. If you make they don't want to deal with the problems. You make the problems go away, but you should tell them that you made the problem go away because you probably make so many little problems go away that they'll never hear about unless you actively tell them. Because when they were self-managing, they probably didn't realize how many little problems they solved, along the way each month or each year. And those really add up. And so when you report it to them, I think it really helps. So that was really good. Jason, when Chuck was talking there about some different ways to communicate, you were vehemently agreeing with him. So tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah, we call it waving our own flag, right? And so we want to communicate those small wins with our owners, especially during or around maintenance. And so, but we also communicate. We make it a point to communicate and be proactive on things that we may see in the event that the owner drives by a vacant property and we know that it needs landscaping done. We'll actually be proactive because we want to let them know that we see the issue, we're addressing it, and it diffuses it. When we get a good review or we have something positive, we always share it with the owner. We don't always expect them to respond or come back, but that's waving our own flag. We want to say, hey, these are the small issues. It's a value add. These are the little things that you may not know happen day to day with managing your property. And so whether they're good or bad, we make a point to communicate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
There's a good quote. There's a good exercise that we did at one point at Poplar was think of a character from a movie that you want your brand to be like, and the one that we land or an actor or just like some figure that you want your brand to sort of represent. And the one that we kind of landed on, but maybe never fully built up the brand to back was Jason Statham from the Transporter series.
Great.
So he, he's got a quote in there where he's like, basically like, hey, I'm the driver. You don't, it's my rules when you're in the car. You don't ask questions. I'm just going to get you to where you need to be. I've got a process, and you don't need to know all the details. So that could be your style. And again, at a certain scale, that might be your style with a certain segment of your customers. But to like Peter's point in the chat, if you bring up, hey, I made this problem go away, that could open up a can of worms. So maybe for that profile, you soften that communication a little bit and you just deliver them what was the result of you solving that problem, not what was the problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. Stepan, anything to add here?
Yeah. I definitely agree with the points that Chuck and Jason made. I'm looking at this question more from the external point of view at our company. What our reputation is online, for example, and how does the public see us, and why it should be treated as the operational constant. It's because reputation is tightly connected to trust, and ultimately, that's what drives the business, right? If people trust you, then they're gonna work with you. So, reviews come to mind mostly, and Peter Lohman outlined some important Google policy changes in his newsletter. But I think that this metric, the amount of Google reviews, should be measured on a weekly basis. We do it that way. And the philosophy behind it is that if we provide good service to our tenants and property owners, they are happy. In turn, they stay longer at the property. The owners are happy, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
Most of the things that we do as property managers are good, but very few people are gonna go out of their way to tell the world. On the contrary, if we mess up something, which happens, right? A lot of people are gonna go out of the way to tell the world. So we have to watch this closely, and systematize the approach.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's the sort of thing that can often just get attention when done wrong, which is harsh and tough, but just kind of the rules of engagement, what you have to deal with. Okay, we're going to move on to our second category here, strategy of reputation-driven lead generation. But first, I'm going to say, Stepan, next time you come on the Profit Power Hour, I think you should do it while riding the Peloton in your background, just to inspire everyone to be, a little bit more fit. So I love that. I love that move, having a Peloton in the office.
It's the only way for me to actually use it, because if it was someone else, I would not.
I do the same thing. You can blur your screen, but you can't hide your fitness affinity there. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the strategy of how you move beyond that. So when a company is looking to move beyond word of mouth, how does reputation help you break into new sub-markets? Both Chuck and Stepan have done this, or lead gen channels. So not just, you can diversify your markets, open up a new office, hit a new market. You can obviously diversify your lead generation channels. We're going to start advertising here, or we're going to target here, where nobody knows your name yet. How do you leverage the reputation you've built in a specific place and use it to spread the word about your company? Chuck, I'll let you go first on this. You've done this a bunch.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, tying it to what we were just talking about, communicating to owners. When you treat reputation like a constant, and you're marketing your business, you're telling owners what are the results that you're delivering with them. You build a strong reputation as if you're kind of like a true partner and friend with them as they earn a return off this investment property. And so when you want to expand into a new market, like one of the things that we would always do at Poplar was go to our owners and try to do some research on who owns properties elsewhere. Because there's probably a lot of owners in your current client base that own rentals, or they know people who own rentals in other markets like the ones you want to expand into. And so if you've created the kind of relationship and reputation with your customers that, hey, we're actively engaging you and communicating with you, when you reach out asking them, hey, do you have any properties in other places, or friends or colleagues that own rentals in other places? That's a great lead gen channel, because it'll give you an initial install base in that market. The other thing that we would do is we at a certain point, we brought maintenance in-house. And so when we expanded into a new market, we would literally send out a property manager and our maintenance technician to live in that market for 3 months and show up at every new client at their door, and very much personalize and hold their hands throughout the onboarding process. And again, that's all about do things that don't scale when you launch into a new market. Don't just yes, you can flip on your Google ads or your all property management leads in a new market, but nothing beats that non-scalable personal approach. There's a great story from Airbnb. When they were launching new markets, they would go out with a camera and they would meet the founders would meet every new client and say, hey, can I take professional photos of your property? And that wasn't something that they were advertising. That's the other thing is surprise your customers in the new markets. That's a big part of building a reputation. So those are some of the things I would think of.
Those are good. Okay, so I think the big takeaway there for me was, besides all the basic otter plans leaving us now, was just very distracting. Was when you're establishing a new market, do something above and beyond to surprise and delight your customers that doesn't necessarily scale. It's not something you're committed to forever, but when you're an unknown and you're trying to establish yourself, you can make a big impact by doing that.
Right.
It's good.
And that's a great moment for you to impart what is your values, what's your differentiating, aspects of your business and culture onto your customers, so they kind of buy in and they want to help you win.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Stepan, you've done this as well. I know you guys started, well, I believe you started in Portland proper, and then you've gone into submarkets from there. So what has that been look like? What are some of the strategies that you guys have put in place?
Yeah, we went through. We don't ever pay for advertising, or we have not yet. What we have done is that we started relationships with local realtors, brokers. When we open sale and market, we are doing a launch event where we are inviting everybody, and we are telling them what we are about, how we can help them, and we are using the reputation that we have from in the other markets as kind of the connecting tissue. Like, hey, look, we are doing great in Portland, and that's exactly what we are gonna do in Salem. We are happy to introduce people to our existing clients, to provide referrals, the good ones, but also the ones where something went sideways, because I believe that it shows a lot to a prospective owner, or in this case, it would be a referral partner when they understand how you act as a company when something goes wrong. So we take this. It's a much longer approach, but then the relationships are tighter, and then the leads that you receive are much warmer and easier to close.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really good. Jason, how about you? What's your take on this?
We have not scaled to other markets. We tried to briefly and realized that we just weren't equipped. It was a completely different market and a different mindset. And where we thought that our playbook that we'd basically be plug and play, and it didn't work that way. And but so we have not scaled into other markets from the property management side.
Yeah. Yeah. What about any of your experience with PM University here as far as content, things that people can classes they can take from PM University that might be helpful in this area?
Yeah. I think generally speaking that there's a broad stroke of education, foundational education, that I think that we need as property managers. Where we find is that adaptation that's company specific training. And so we're working through that right now with everybody. The states are different, the companies are different, and so we're finding our place where we have to adapt accordingly to that. But I think for us, I think reputation, you have to prove. You have to prove that you're established. You have to prove your value before you get into those other markets.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Airbnb example of actually boots on the ground, showing up and putting in the work.
Yeah. And one thing we often talk about on the Profit Power Hour is always having a good idea of your goals as a business owner in mind. So always keeping those at the forefront of your mind. The first question that I think people should ask before they enter a new market is, do I really need to? Do I really want to? Do I know what it takes? Do I have what it takes? Do I want to give what it takes? And I think for most PMs, and I'm not trying to discourage necessarily, I think for most PMs, the answer is no. And that's why I never did it. And Peter is just talking about how he's never done it, which is okay. I ran a company. I was in Wilmington. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. We have about 200,000 people. We had 1,300 doors. I got a big enough TAM right here. I have a nice market position, a pretty dominant market position that I want to expand. The last thing I wanted to do is get distracted by moving, to a market an hour and a half or 2 hours away. So you really do have to ask the question of, is it aligned with my goals as a business owner, which a lot of people have entrepreneurial freedom goals. I would think probably one of the easiest ways to get rid of entrepreneurial freedom is to open a new office in a new market where you're constantly driving back and forth or managing a team remotely. So you really do have to answer that question first. Chuck obviously had a nationwide ambition. Stepan's got a rapidly growing organically growing company where he's not really even spending money to get leads, spending money to get doors. It made sense for them. For a lot of people, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's the mistake we made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, keep in mind, Poplar, talk about reputation. We had this interesting reputation as like a VC backed, kind of doesn't fully understand property management, expanding too fast. And so we had this challenge where, the source of our capital, we were college students when we started Poplar. We were sophomores in college at Santa Clara University in California. And so the source of our, we didn't have a bunch of family money to put into this. So we went and raised money, and the source of that money expected a certain expansion plan. So like, that's why I said plus 100 on this point. For those of you that have full autonomy and full decision power over the outcomes and goals of your business, like truly take that, what Brad said, to heart, because I think that is like so important. You don't want to like find yourself in a position where you're doing something you don't want to be doing. And if you do have investors or other partners in the business, make sure you have a really frank conversation about what are each of their goals and what are their expectations and timeline.
Yeah. This was, I call this the Chops Deli example. In Wilmington, we had like this incredible deli called Chops Deli, and it was just slammed all the time. So they went from one location to 4 in 6 months. And then a year later, they closed the whole thing because they couldn't do the multi-location thing. They could just operate one restaurant really well. And a lot of people are in that spot. All right, before we move on, I want to recognize a couple things in the chat here. Andrew Fiddler had a good example, good suggestion. He said, I'd recommend starting a YouTube channel where you answer common and complex questions about PM. As the channel grows, people just eventually find you online. It's slow, but it's free advertising. So this is the they ask you answer model. Somebody remind me of the guy's name. He did a keynote at Broker Owner. Anybody? He was the like opening keynote. The pool guy from Richmond, Virginia. Somebody will throw it in the chat, I'm sure. But They Ask You Answer is kind of the book that made that strategy famous. It's obviously a really good one. Stacy Wilson wants to, Marcus Sheridan, thank you guys very much. Stacy said, can any of you address Google's new rules, which seems to discourage the Google review request machine so many PM companies are using? We will address that in the tactical portion in number 3. Do not let me forget that, gentlemen. We definitely need to talk about that. And then there's just some, banter here. All right, let's move on. How do you balance aggressive lead generation with reputational discipline? This is a great question. I know, right? I wrote it. More specifically, how do you say no to the wrong doors even when you have the capacity to grow? So you want to grow leads. You have an aggressive lead gen channel or aggressive lead gen ambitions, but you also want to be disciplined with your reputation. And one way that you can kill your reputation is by taking on the wrong doors. So how do you strategically say no to the wrong doors even when you have the capacity to grow? I'll go open-ended on this. Who wants to take this on?
I can take a stab at it. So and it could be fairly brief for me. That's where EOS is so essential for us. That's we define the target group, who that client actually is. So for us, it's an owner, client, or investor who owns a property in a specific area, who wants to keep their property well maintained, and who trust us as their as their expert partner. So if in the sales process we see red flags, we see some friction over there, we decide not to move forward, because then ultimately it would create a strain on the operations down the line, and that would not be good, not be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you experienced that? Like maybe what's the do you have any horror stories on this front?
When we took on a client that we shouldn't have.
Yeah, yeah. Because of your growth ambitions.
Uh, you know, the way we incentivize our BDMs is that they get their commission paid at the moment when the property is leased, not when the management agreement is signed. And that way we keep them connected in the onboarding process, so they are invested in the smooth onboarding
Mhm.
process for the client as well. Is it perfect? No, but I think it is a significant part of the success. You know, where we're not dropping too many doors, and we are not onboarding the doors that we don't want, because it would get exposed really quickly.
Yeah. The next level of that is also having a clawback clause if they leave within 6 months or a year. Do you guys do that?
We don't actually,
Okay. I mean, if you don't
but
have
it's a
to,
great idea.
then don't. But I know some people who, level one is you get a commission when they sign. Level two is you get a commission when the property leases, and then level three is you get a commission when, or you get to keep your commission as long as they stay. Because sometimes you can get the wrong owner to get in and get leased, but then the
Mhm.
management happens and they want to do all the maintenance and they want to do all the stuff that
Yeah.
you do not want them to do, and they leave, but that person still got to keep the money. So I know that can be a little bit harsh to the BDM, but I think it actually aligns incentives pretty well.
Yeah.
Just food for thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting one. We tried a lot of those different structures at Poplar, and the 6 month, like you get half your commission when it signs, half when it's 6 months. Sometimes you run into the classic like sales and operations headbutting, where it's like, well, they left because of the operations person.
Yeah.
They fit our buy box criteria, they fit our lead qualification criteria. So then you have to, you're just kind of shifting the problems around. You got to manage that now. But yeah, I think it's a great idea to definitely avoid paying the commission right at the time of deal signing. And all the different models we tested, that one led to the highest rate of unqualified clients and doors. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, this is a really hard thing for property management. My theory is like, property management is insanely fragmented, and one of the reasons is because it's the profile of the customer is insanely fragmented. There are so many different types of owners and what they want, what they like, what they don't like. And so you do have to kind of choose. I can tell you all the things that go wrong when you say yes to too many people. We did that again because we were just trying to, expand everywhere. And our thesis was, why can't anyone with a rental property anywhere join, Poplar? And I can't say that was the right approach. So we tried to create. We had like Tycoon Tyson, Faraway Frida. We named all of the different profiles of our customers. Newbie Nathan, which you might imagine was like the accidental investor. And we tried to like profile them demographically, psychographically. They're, even down to like what education levels and income amounts that they had. And then tried to bucket people into those profiles. And then we would use signals like, were they responsive to our salespeople at the beginning of the relationship? That demonstrates an owner that is going to be responsive later when you need their approval on maintenance. So look for those signals and build that into your qualification criteria.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was somebody on the Profit Power Hour a few months ago who was like, I make all of my prospective owners do a Zoom call with me first, because that is the first disqualifying criteria for an owner I want to work with. If they can't figure out how to get on a Zoom call, they're not going to work well with us because we have a tech-driven approach. I was like, oh, that's great. Just screen them out immediately. Hey, I don't use Zoom. I don't know how to do Zoom. I don't have a smartphone. Well, we're not the shop for you. So that you can find little tests like that to weed people out. Jason, what about you? What's your take on this?
At first we really started with just a simple graph of high effort, high reward, put them on a graph that evolved into it really helped us then identify the ICP. And we stole a playbook from Mark Cunningham. We try to identify who's financially stable, emotionally stable, and how passive they are. And we try to find those. And so we really focus on just those three concepts. And sometimes we flat out ask them, but we find that you can pretty much, through the onboarding, even after the management agreement is signed, our onboarding process is actually looped in under our sales department. And so at any time during the onboarding process, they can pull the plug on it. So if the honeymoon's over and the management agreement signed, we still have the ability to pull that out. And even we do, going back to a previous comment, we always analyze. If we have a problematic client, we'll always go back to those three things. Have they fallen out of those three things that we identify as a perfect client for us? And we have no problems of letting an owner go if they don't fit that criteria.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what it comes down to is
and it's hard.
Yeah. Do you have the discipline to say no? And then do you also have the discipline to, if you've made a mistake and you've realized you've made a mistake, do you have the discipline to fire a bad owner even early on when it looks like it's not going to work out? Because most of the time, people don't change in the course of a business relationship.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's usually just the way it goes. Okay, I'm going to move on here. I want to make sure, I'm actually going to skip this question because I want to make sure that we get to the tactical part. I know there are some good questions to answer there. First, quick pulse check for you. So from a data perspective, do you know how many doors you need to meet your revenue goals? Are your current sales efforts bringing in the right quantity and quality of doors? These are questions to ask yourself. Do you know your conversion rate? Do you know why it goes up, why it goes down, why your leads fall off? Are you measuring how much you spend on acquiring new doors versus how many doors you lose each month? Are you doing the math on that? And then do you know, like we were talking about with paid ads and marketing, do you know if your marketing budget is too much, too little, or just right? So if you don't know the answer to all of those questions, we would love the opportunity to help you get the answer to those questions. That's just some of the work that we do at Profit Coach. So we'll put a poll up on the screen. If you'd like to book a sales audit with us, we would love to help you understand how your reputation is impacting your lead generation, identify leaks in your sales process, and explore opportunities to improve the quality and conversion rate of your new doors. So that call would be with Terrence. Terrence is our salesperson at Profit Coach, but he also used to operate and do the BDM and sales work for a PM company in Florida for a number of years. So he's been in your shoes. He's gotten to see what works and what doesn't work at his local level in Florida. And then, of course, working at Profit Coach, we work with hundreds of clients on a regular basis and get to see what these best practices, what works, what doesn't work, and how do the numbers drive all of that. So we'll review your data. We'll identify where your reputation is helping or hurting your ability to close these clients, analyze the doors that you are bringing in, and walk you through some actionable opportunities to strengthen your sales process, build a more predictable growth engine. So that call is at no cost to you. Would love to speak with you more to see if we can help you in any way. You can respond there on the poll, and then that QR code just leads straight to his calendar, which is starting to free up after a crazy post-broker owner flurry. So we'd love to chat with you if that's of interest to you. Feel free to respond on the poll or book with the QR code. As you may wish. Okay, let's go tactics. I'm going to just jump ahead right into that question that Stacy asked about. I'm just going to ignore what's on the screen here because everybody wants to talk about it, I'm sure. Google's new policy. What's your take? Chuck, I'm going to start with you because this is like where you live and breathe with propertymanagement.com. I mean, reviews not being the most important or the only thing that you're concerned about, but certainly that plays a role in your propertymanagement.com score, I would imagine. It plays a role in lead generation for all property managers, basically everywhere. So it's a big deal. So what's your take on this new rule?
Yeah, so look, like it's hard to plan and predict every move that Google is going to make, but at the end of the day, uh, it's really about just like authentically delivering great service and then communicate effectively with your customers, make sure they know where and how to leave positive reviews and choosing the right times to ask them, and not trying to focus on gaming the system and trying to get a bunch of reviews from team members asking customers to mention their name so that they can get, $25 gift card. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like, hey, there's a new system we have to figure out. Like just focus on the fundamentals and delivering a great service. And I think these Google review rules that are being pushed out are really just designed to get closer to, okay, how do we find truly authentic reviews? On propertymanagement.com, the Google reviews and ratings is part of the current scoring methodology, but we're going to be updating the scoring methodology and shifting away from the current metrics that drive the propertymanagement.com scores. We're also going to we don't want to be like arbiters of truth with our methodology. So we're going to shift away from public and exposed scores in like a national ranking format. We're going to shift away from relying solely on Google reviews and ratings. And we're going to really focus on just helping you as a property management company match with the right property owners for your business. So back to that conversation around finding the right customers to work with. So that's our focus right now. And yeah, I mean, we at Poplar, we did all the things. We ran internal competitions with employees to see who could get the most reviews. We asked people to say, hey, if your name is mentioned in the review, you'll get a $25 gift card, that sort of thing. These are all the things that Google is now cracking down on. And so I think you'd really just have to focus on the fundamentals and also recognize that Google is trying to protect Google.
Yeah.
So they're not working to help out property management company in X or Y location. And so you can't really, you can expect that any of their rule changes are going to be sudden and have no consideration of your specific business and how you run things. So I think finding other places to build your reputation, other channels to communicate your reputation is really important. Obviously, like propertymanagement.com is one of those places, but it doesn't just need to be that. It can also be YouTube. Like I think the comment earlier from Andrew is a great idea. And let that stuff carry the weight. Don't just rely on Google reviews being a silver bullet.
Yes, and I think the parallel is not perfect, but since we've mentioned him a couple times and he's actively chatting in here, I'll shout out Peter for his attention that he's brought to the Zillow monopoly. If we let any one source dictate everything for one part of our business, we can become overly reliant on it, and they can control us. So, yeah, I'm you can't. Google reviews and your Google profile and your score cannot be everything for you for your reputation because they can take it away. They can do whatever they want to it. Thank you, Todd, for that. So you can't over rely on Google because they can change the rules at any time. They do change the rules at any time, and they can choose how much they do or do not want to enforce those rules. But just to make it clear, to my understanding, they didn't outlaw, like, they won't take the review down automatically if a name is mentioned, but you can't ask for a name. And then you can't you can ask people for a review, but you can't do so only if you have received an indication that they had a positive experience. You can't pick and choose who you ask reviews for. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the impression I've gotten is like They don't want cherry picking. They don't want people, asking for specific content in the review. They don't want incentives for reviews. Uh, you know, like if you go out there and you find there's plenty of options out there where you can go find a place in Bangladesh or the Philippines that will have 1,000 Gmail accounts and write you a bunch of reviews. um, that's probably one of the easiest ones that they crack down on, is if you have
Yeah.
sudden spikes in volume
It
of
takes like
reviews.
24 hours for all of those to go away.
Yeah. So just again, it's like, why waste your time trying to game the system when you could be spending that time on the actual fundamentals? What are the results you're delivering for the customers? How fast are you reducing their vacancy? How much extra return are you generating on their property? How much more peace of mind are you delivering in their experience working with you? And just focus on that stuff and communicate that stuff, and make the asks genuine. I know it's really difficult because like property management is one of those things where people don't think to write a review until something goes wrong, but you've got to reframe it for your customers and get them used to hearing from you about the good things. And that will lay the foundation for them to want to go share about that when you ask.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Jason, two or three or one, take a pick, tactical steps a PM should take to take that offline reputation that they've built, that community trust, and translate it into something online that Google, AI search, PM.com, whatever it is, can ingest and recommend.
I think what Chuck said is you stay the course. You identify your core values, your culture and your value, and you stay the course. And I think also, not like you mentioned, not being dependent on one channel is critical. And I think if you just commit to delivering what it is that you do, the rest kind of sorts itself out. I mean, we don't stick our head in the sands when we get a one-star review. We just know that we're doing the right thing, and we just keep going, and it seems to work itself out. I still believe in Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think that SEO didn't die. I don't think that the reviews didn't die. I think that that's even probably the first layer of an AI search, right? Is they're going to check that, and then they're going to start digging deeper into your platform. And so I think that those really genuine FAQs are really helpful on your site. The real questions that owners and residents are asking, I think was
Yeah.
the step that I would suggest.
Yeah, that's a great point. Is like, and you guys brought up earlier, like you ask, they answer, or they ask, you answer. You putting out that content to answer those questions is really important. And just remember, like AI, one of the biggest things that's going to emerge with AI is there's going to be a massive need for more research and development, because AI is trained off of what exists, and the more and more that people use it, it just becomes this like circular loop of slop. And so
You
you
don't
getting out
say.
there, and so like you getting out there and sharing, again, I go back to what I said earlier. It's like, what are the real results and stories behind those results that you've delivered to your clients? What are the real problems that you've faced and how you've overcome those? That's like research and development. That's like so valuable for AI, because it's stuck in your brain, it's stuck offline, it's stuck in the background workflows of your business. Take that stuff, package it up, and put it out there in the world. And don't be, afraid of like, feeling like, oh, I'm sharing the secret sauce. Like ultimately, that it's going to deliver more value in the long term if you're willing to share, at least some of that secret sauce of how the meal is being made. Um, and avoid summarizing too much stuff. Like if you just take existing content out there and summarize it, and like just insert your one liner story behind it, AI is going to look at that as, okay, this is majority just a summary of other content that exists on the internet. And I'm just going to go to the original source of that content and use that as my main source. So, um, So yeah, I think all of that is really valuable. Uh, just think about what do these AI companies need more of, and deliver that, because they're gonna they're going to be financially motivated to build their engines around that. And Jason, your point about SEO not being dead is 100% right. Like, Google basically said, again, Google's protecting Google, but they basically said, hey, we're using the same parameters of like what great SEO looks like for
Mhm.
choosing what we show inside of AI search. So start there. And again, one of the big things that property managers don't do, is backlinks from other high authority websites. This is something that other industries do really well. If you search a company in any other, in a lot of other industries, specifically like non-service related industries, the first thing you're going to see on Google is a bunch of like press articles about that company. You're not going to see like their, Google reviews and et cetera. And unfortunately, we're kind of beholden to how Google has designed search. They thought, okay, for home services, we need to show Google reviews, but for every other industry, we're going to show all their puff pieces on, Forbes and New York Times, and so that doesn't mean that, oh, whoa us, we're never going to get there, but it just means like invest in getting your name out there on other high authority websites, build relationships with those people, offer yourself up as a source to any journalist that's writing about housing in your market, share with them data and insights that you've learned from managing rental properties. That kind of stuff is going to get you great high quality backlinks.
Mm.
And that's, I think, one of the most important parts of AI search and SEO.
Yeah, that's really good. Stepan, we're a little over time here, but fair number of people have hung out here to hear what you have to say to close us out here. So, what can people do to take a great hard-earned offline reputation and get it online and get the word out?
Yeah. So one thing that we took from Mark Cunningham's playbook is educational videos. So pick a topic, take the or list of topics. You could talk about hundreds of them, right? Because hundreds of situations happen every day, and shoot an educational video about how to handle with it. How do we do security deposit accounting? How do we do move-in inspection? What to do when rent is late? How do you fill out that notice that you need to serve to the tenant? How do you serve it to the tenant? You can, or what we have done is shoot 2 to 3 minute videos, release it every 2 weeks, have it indexed, put it on the website. Um, and based on what I understand about AI search, that's what's being found, and that's how you build your reputation. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. Okay. I'm going to skip this one since we're already 8 minutes overtime. I'm sure it would have been a great question, but maybe we'll put some content out afterwards with some answers from these guys on how you take frontline folks and help them understand their role in the reputation loop. I'll write something up and send it out afterwards and let these fine people get on with their day. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Next up is going to be episode 6. We're going to do that on July 1st. Normally we do the 4th Wednesday of the month. June is absolutely nuts for me, for Profit Coach team. We're going to be at our company retreat. So moving into July 1st, and then we'll do July 29th. So we'll do 2 in 1 month, bookended at each end of the month. And so we're looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, you can get in touch with me, Brad at pmprofitcoach.com. Answer all my emails personally. I don't have an AI assistant for my email. You'll always get it from me, always, at least for now. And our website is pmprofitcoach.com if you want to check us out. Thank you to our panelists for joining us today and giving us such good, insightful content. And we will see you guys next month.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Stepan.
everyone.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Stepan, Jason.
Thanks
See
for
ya.
having me.
Take care, guys.